All right, we are recording. We're good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ABC, the Advanced Branding Collaborative. Today is May 20th. So we've got 5:20 today, and there's some amazing things actually happening. Oh, sorry, real quick. I just got interrupted. Sorry, there's some amazing things happening online right now. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that not only ourselves, but many others are starting to utilize this online virtual experience as really, where once it was an alternative, it's now becoming the norm. And so we just thank you for joining us. For those that are going to be watching the replay later, just make note that we do this every single week currently on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so we're actually coming to a close of our series that we've been having over the last month. It's been a wonderful series. We've been talking a lot about just breakthrough experiences, overcoming obstacles in life, the subconscious mind, many different things. And so Wendy and Jenny are going to be kicking us off today in what I think is our last of your series, right? We've got some guests coming on next week, which will be really exciting. We'll talk about that at the very end. But today's topic, to kind of close us off strong, is we're going to be talking about the subconscious and limiting beliefs. You see, many personal and relational problems stem from limiting beliefs that are held in your memory by the subconscious, and they continue to constantly hijack your brain. If your ability to make conscious choices is regularly hijacked, then limiting fear is likely in play. So Wendy, Jenny, you're going to tune in here and you're going to tell us how to stop this hijacking. How do we take control of our lives? How do we take control of our minds and continue to push forward? So thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right. Well, let me share my screen here and get the PowerPoint up. Let's see.
Did I unfreeze, by the way, while you're pulling this up through
Yep.
the rest of that intro?
You didn't freeze, not for me anyway.
Oh, on my screen I froze, so as I was talking, I thought I was offline. Okay, perfect.
Nope. So, all right, so today is week number 4 of Transform Yourself to Be Your Best You, and tonight we are going to be talking about the subconscious and limiting beliefs. Hopefully my clicker will work better tonight than it did last week. There we go. So we'll start with the subconscious, and Jenny is going to lead us off.
So, good morning. Good morning in Australia. Good evening, everyone. So the subconscious mind, you probably have seen this picture before, like the iceberg. With an iceberg, you mostly only see the tip of the iceberg, but the main part of it is actually underwater. And with the subconscious mind, it's actually the same. So our conscious mind is about 10% of the iceberg, and our subconscious is about 90% of our mind. And the conscious mind is where we try to make changes by willpower. You know how we try to lose weight, to give up smoking, or really make that change with willpower. And we might succeed for a short period of time, like 2 weeks, with the new eating habits, but then we go back to the old because we actually haven't changed anything in our subconscious mind. We haven't changed anything about our belief system or our real habits and our values. So that's why it's so important to work with the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind is where, like I said, the willpower sits, the short-term memory. It's our logical thinking. It's our critical thinking. It's that voice that comes into your head, telling you stuff as well. And our subconscious mind is basically our feeling mind, where our intuition is, where we can really tap into our imagination. And it's also our long-term memory. That's why we save our beliefs and our programming and our belief system in the subconscious mind. And you can also compare it to a ship. So basically the conscious mind is the captain, but the crew is the subconscious. And what happens when the crew plays up? you got mutiny. So if you are the captain, you don't want to be on that ship if the crew plays up. So yeah, that's about the conscious and the subconscious mind, and it's really like it's like a no-brainer basically to work with the subconscious, because it's so much easier to implement changes and shift things for you. So yeah, you can go next slide if you want, Wendy.
I think Rob has a comment.
No,
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that I read somewhere a long time ago, because I like this model a lot, that this is the only time that 10 plus 90 equals 110. And what they said in that particular article was that if you can figure out how to get your conscious mind and your subconscious to work together, then your output is really 110%. It's more effective than anything, because you can live in the now by thinking through things, you know, that are critical and logical, but at the same time, you can introduce all these things that are in the subconscious, like grabbing a tool or looking up an article or doing something
Exactly.
that just comes natural as you're working on a critical problem. And so anyway, I just wanted to mention that I've seen this model before and I like it. So.
Yeah, and that's actually what Eckhart Tolle talks about when he says, you know, living in the now and really becoming that observer of that voice. So you can actually, like you said, you can use that voice to your benefit, to think, you know, critical, to think logical, but you use it and then you turn it off again. So it's when you don't have that constant chatter in your mind, you can actually use it to your benefit.
Okay.
All right.
So now we'll talk a little bit about limiting beliefs. So limiting belief is a state of mind, a conviction, or a belief that you think to be true that limits you in some way. Limiting beliefs are often about you in terms of your self-identity, about your interactions with others, or about the world and how it works. They typically have a number of negative effects on you. So some of the causes of limiting beliefs: family beliefs. So family beliefs are your values, your ideals, and the beliefs that you were taught by your family as you were growing up. So there's probably things that have been carried down from generation to generation, just because, you know, we always do what we know. So when we teach our kids how we were taught, because that's all we know. And so we're unconsciously teaching our children those same things that were taught to us. And a lot of times those things can really get in the way of children being successful later in life, as well as yourself, obviously. You got to figure out what those limiting beliefs are before you can really move forward and have all the success that you are destined to have. Another cause is education. So all the things that your teachers and those people that were in authority over you, such as your supervisors, coaches, you know, anybody, all those things that they told you about yourself and life in general. So, you know, losers never prosper, or cheaters never prosper. You know, if you're not a winner, you're a loser, you know, those kinds of things like that. Or teachers was saying, you know, she struggles in math and he can't do art, you know, those things get ingrained in you, and it's hard for you. Maybe you don't even realize, oh yeah, Mrs. Butler in 6th grade told me that my art sucked. And so, not sucked, but that probably art wasn't the way I wanted to go in my later years of school. And so therefore, you know, it's like, oh, well, I can't do art, so I'm not even going to try, kind of thing. And then the third cause is experiences. And those are the things that you go through in your life that have a negative outcome or impact that cause you to believe in a certain way. So when those things happen then again to you in the future, you're going to have that same traumatic thought or feeling associated with it. And then you're going to think, oh, every time this happens, I'm going to have that same reaction. So those are some of the causes of limiting beliefs, and a lot of them are unconscious to us. You know, we don't even realize, or you know, they're just so ingrained in us from an early age that, you know, we don't even know that they're there until maybe somebody else points them out to us. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one thing that comes to mind here is, of course, I'm going to kind of misquote it, but you guys all probably have heard that story about a baby. Like how, you know, why is it that a baby's able to walk, or how is a baby able to walk? And it's just because, I mean, first of all, that's a pretty hard task. To, you know, when you see people go through even therapy, being able to walk again or walk for the first time, it's quite a venture. But they don't know that they can't do it, first and foremost. And secondly, we as parents are reinforcing them, right? Come on, you can do it. Come on, come on. We're all excited and we believe in them. And then they start to believe in themselves, and they actually, you know, they go from crawling to walking. So it's interesting as we get older in life that we don't continue to be those champions for the people around us. You know, for each and every one of us, you can do anything that you put your mind to, quite frankly. So, well, within reason. You know, the law of gravity says I can't jump from here to the moon, but that's a whole nother thing. But anyways, but yeah, so I mean that's just one example. But you're right. It's what we program. It's how we program ourselves over years and years and years, even generations, that usually embeds this limiting belief.
So, Rob, that reminds me of something that I was told, I think as a very young mom. Oh, when I was struggling to get my daughter to be potty trained, I was frustrated, you know, and the gal said, you know, small children, small problems, big children, big problems. And then she said, to go along with that, she said, you know, we spend the first 2 years of a child's life trying to get them to walk and talk. And then we spend the next 16 years telling them to sit down and shut up. So.
That's true, but maybe those are voices that have to be heard, right?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So now that we've kind of talked about the causes, I noticed this is true for me. I knew that something was holding me back, but I didn't know what it was. And so at first, I didn't know that they were limiting beliefs. And then it kind of came to me over time that, you know, you probably have limiting beliefs about these things. But then, okay, so I figured out I have limiting beliefs, but then it's like, okay, well, what are they? And so it's kind of a step-by-step process. First, you have to figure out that you have limiting beliefs, and then you have to figure out what they are, and then you have to overcome them, or, you know, turn them on their heads. So I thought I would just kind of talk about ways to identify your limiting beliefs. And one is to identify what your beliefs are, not necessarily your limiting beliefs, but just your beliefs in general. The things that you think about life, that you think about your family, how you know, what you maybe believe about religion, what you think about money. So just your beliefs in general. Anything that you feel strongly about and things that challenge you in your daily life. And then you should go through and you should group them into different categories like finances, family, relationship, or health, or anything else you want to. And examine the ones that are helping you grow and the ones that could be challenging you, limiting you. So maybe after you've identified your categories, you can figure out which ones are, you know, use a pink highlighter and an orange highlighter and highlight the green, highlight the good ones green, highlight the bad ones orange. And then once you've identified the beliefs, your beliefs, then you want to look at your behavior. So think about times where you've acted in a certain way, and especially in negative or toxic ways, and think about why. You know, usually there's reasons why, and sometimes we don't realize that those reasons are there. So then you can think, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm acting irrationally right now, so there must be a reason. So let's go back and try and figure out, you know, what might be causing that. So let's say, for example, that you get offended. You've offended someone, or I'm sorry, let me try that all again. Someone says something and you are offended by it. Okay, what makes you feel offended? You know, why do you feel that way? It's just words. You know, yes, I know intonations and context do have something to do with it, but what offends one person but doesn't offend the person next to them, there's a reason for that. And so those are things that you kind of need to analyze and figure out. You know, I know some people are really sensitive and some people aren't. Like for me, for example, I'm not easily offended. My feelings don't get hurt easily. So if I do get offended or hurt, if something upsets me and it's still upsetting me 2 or 3 days later, then I know that it's something I really need to address inside myself and maybe with the person that said it, depending on what it is. If it's not bothering me, you know, the next day or that night, then I know it's nothing important and I just move on and not have to worry about it. And then the last thing you need to do is write down the areas where you feel challenged. So if you notice that you have recurring challenges in your life, you should write them down because they're probably indicative of limiting beliefs. So they could be the byproduct of erroneous beliefs you've adopted as truths. Make a note of which beliefs pertain to which challenges. So maybe you go back and look at your beliefs and compare them, to your challenges and figure out where they fit together. So just like, you know, if any of the things that you believe about money are a challenge for you, you probably will be able to go back and identify your beliefs regarding that. Like money is evil, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. You know, where do those things come from? Probably your family or your external environment. So, okay. Rob, anything you want to say regarding that stuff?
No, other than the fact that, I mean, I guess, you know, identify your beliefs and assess your behavior when we think of that in sequence. One thing that makes it really hard to do that, to bridge the gap between those two things, is the fact that most of us, and I'm raising my hand as well, but most of us do not want to dig deep into that because then it means they have to accept the fact that we have a behavior that needs to be changed, right? And so we all just naturally guard that sometimes, and we don't dig deep enough to identify. Yeah, we can identify our belief system, but to assess the behavior is sometimes hard for a lot of people. And so that's really kind of where breakthrough starts to happen, right? You need to be able to identify it. You need to recognize that it is what it is, accept it, and then figure out how to push forward, right? To push through it.
You know, to go along with that, I think all of this is kind of based on the fact that you have a desire to move forward, because you're not going to come to a point of even grasping the concept of limiting beliefs and your subconscious versus your conscience if you're not looking to develop yourself, become more self-aware. So, and I think one of the first steps to self-awareness is accepting responsibility for your actions and not blaming other people, and realizing that everything that you do in your life, everything you do, everything you say is a choice. People don't make you say things. People don't make you do things. You choose to say what you say. You choose to do what you do. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, you say something and somebody misinterprets what you meant. That's different than, you know, somebody making you say something.
Yeah, that can be clarification, communication,
Right.
yeah, a lot of things.
Yeah.
it's very interesting. And please, if anyone else has anything you want to just add to this or even experiences to share, we are so quick to assess someone else's behavior before our own. Isn't that interesting? Like all day long, we can identify certain beliefs of other people, or at least figure out that we think we know. And then we start to assess their own behavior and their actions when really it's self that we should be focused on, right? It's just interesting how we divert that to other people to make ourselves feel, I guess, more in control.
And sometimes I think part of that too is you can't see the forest through the trees when you're standing in the middle of it. You can see things in other people, but you can't see them in yourself because you are in the middle of it all. And it's so much easier to see things when you're on the outside looking in than when you're actually the one that's experiencing them. So I love Les Brown saying, you can't read the label if you're stuck in the box. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Can I just, oh, sorry. Was that Lorianne?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I have a really quick question. We talk a lot about people who have limiting beliefs about money, which I find really interesting because we all want to be successful, but yet we fear becoming successful. And I want to know, like, I know where my whole attitude on that comes from. It's not about a non-deserving, it's about the fear of becoming what people say people become when they become rich. And in fact, it was part of probably the demise of my marriage was because of money, because some people change when they make money. And that scares me, although I know I don't expect to change when I make money, but having seen it happen, it gives me anxiety.
Yeah, well, that's that programming, right, that we talk. The fact that if you're told, you know, all these things that you guys hear, these cliches, you know, money is the root of all evil. Well, no, bad people are the root of all evil, but are bad intent with money. So yeah, there's these things that you continuously program yourself with, but you're right, Lorianne. It's true. The other thing is that typically we're also programmed to know that when we have more, it means more responsibility. And so people fear gaining power, gaining control, having more, because now it means more responsibility in whatever fashion that may be. I've actually heard people say to me before, well, I would never want to win the lotto because then everyone would want to borrow money from me. And I'm thinking, that's interesting that somebody's limiting belief is, I don't want it because then everyone else is going to want it from me. Anyway, I find that kind of counter, productive, but it does happen.
I think
let me say this. I think it also has a lot to do with your mindset and your responsibility. I mean, everybody wants to make it to the top, but they don't see the work and the effort for them to get there. They think it's easy come, easy go.
That's
true.
Yeah.
Once you become a celebrity, once you make a certain amount of money, there's a lot of responsibility that goes behind it. So, for example, my favorite shark, Mark Cuban, he has a lot of responsibilities on his shoulders, but at the same point in time, he doesn't forget where he comes from. He still gives back, so he understands, he's humble with the responsibility. With too much is given, much is required. You understand? So a lot of people, if they think $100 can come easy, it's easy come, easy go. That's why they will never have anything.
Well, thank you for actually adding that, Angela. That's so true. And I know we're getting kind of hung up on this slide, but it's pretty exciting. So if anyone's got other things they want to throw in here, I think it's really important. This is probably one of the biggest things when it comes to actually being successful. And when I say successful, it's not just money. It could be a multitude of things, but it really is our limiting beliefs. And one thing that I found is, and maybe you'll be talking about it later, but if not, it's actually replacing some of these negative stigmas with other, either verbs or other actions that can be put behind it. And so here's one example. Instead of actually saying that you want more money, right? Based on the example you just gave, Angela. So, rather than saying, I just want more money, start thinking about the deeper impact of why you want more money. And so if you do that and you start to write these things down, like in my case, it would be, I want to change thousands of lives. That's absolutely what I want to do. And I want to do it around the entire world. And so if I start focusing on things like that, then I'm going to increase and elevate my belief system because I just want to change lives. Now, inevitably, because I want to change lives, thousands of lives, that money is just going to come in. Again, not just like that, not magical, but it's, you know, based on that action, based on that energy, it's just going to be part of the equation so that I can actually accomplish those things that I want to do in life. But instead of attaching it directly to money and saying, I just want to be rich, I just want more money, I just want a bigger house, you know, I want to change lives. I want to impact this world. I want to do this. I want to do that. Start focusing on those things. Same thing with work. If it's just a job, I want to be president of this company someday, rather than saying, I want to make $300,000 like this president does. Say, I just want to be president. So what do I have to do? What does it take to become president of this company? That's where limiting beliefs start to actually shift.
But then when you accomplish your goal, it's more gratifying. And that right there, you cannot put a price on that.
That's right.
You can't.
Yep.
Satisfaction, you cannot put a price on satisfaction.
That's right. Serve the cause first, and the income and other things will actually surround themselves. Yep.
Jenny, did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, actually, you know, about what Lorianne said, that people change. I think that next exercise will really help you with that, because our brain tends to generalize. And, you know, you might think everyone's going to change. But does actually everyone change? Is that true? You know, just asking yourself, does everyone who has money change in a negative way?
You're asking this as a question?
Yeah, is Lorianne still there? I can't see everyone.
I am. No, I don't believe that. But I think almost that I manifested it horribly enough, because my mother came from nothing. My dad did very well, and she became a big snob about things. She's not anymore, but she did go through that period. And then, of course, my ex-husband. So I started to believe that that's true, you know, because higher people and more snobby and less heart and more about money. Money.
Then ask yourself, is it actually true? Is it actually true?
Yeah.
For everyone. Is it true in the world for everyone?
No, but that's two people in my life. Exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that. You look at the ones that are like huge philanthropists now that are multimillionaires, including, you know, Bill Gates. And yeah, they've made the money. Now they can help other people. I get it. And they're just who they are. And I mean, we've got Ray Dalio, who I know a lot of people don't know, but he's the 26th richest billionaire in the US, and he's got a lot of great things to say. He wouldn't even drive anything more than just a beat up old car. Like, he refused. He said he wasn't going to change because money came in. That was not it, and his kids had to work for it.
And here's the interesting thing about that. It's okay to want nice things, right? It's okay, you know, for some people that works. For some people, they need to raise the bar to a physical sense, right? So it's like, you know, I don't, but I'm saying I hear a lot of people, you know, they're like, I want a Lamborghini, I want to drive, you know, so they'll do whatever it takes to just say that they have a Lamborghini. Now, granted, sometimes when you fixate yourself on those, you know, objects, you can do very cruel and demeaning things to get to those levels. So that actually is something that comes into play as well. But I had a mentor, my grandfather is no longer with us, that some of you know my story, started teaching me about business and money at the age of 13. And so I was reading books on business and money at that age. And I won't even sugarcoat it. His exact words of advice to me was that whether you make $1 or you make $1 million, if you were a shitty person when you were poor, you're a shitty person when you're rich.
Yes.
And likewise, if you have good intentions and you have a kind heart and you want to change the world and serve people, you know, you'll do, even at a grander scale, you'll do that when you have money. because
Yeah.
of, again, your intentions.
I think what is actually a good exercise when you sort of imagine that you have that money that you want, you'll have it tomorrow. What are you going to do? I think that sort of, shows a bit of your values. Will you go out and buy that Lamborghini and spend all the money, or will you, set up that whatever that charity you always wanted to do? And I think that really gives you a good idea about where your values are. And when you know that you have only good intentions, then there's no need to think that you're gonna change into a bad person. Or I think that will just help you to see where you want to go.
May I say one quick thing? I love the way you said that. Did you say Lamborghini?
Lamborghini.
Because I was thinking, yeah, that would be a genie in a bottle for me. That would be. That's so sweet. Anyway, that was cute.
Okay.
All right.
So some people don't know, well, I don't even know what a limiting belief is, so, okay, I can identify my beliefs and I can assess my behavior and I can look at behaviors, versus challenges and beliefs, but how do I know what my actual limiting belief is? So, because that was kind of a thing for me. I was like, yeah, I know I have them, but I don't know what they are. So it helped me to see examples of them. And I'll tell you that this first one, I don't have time. I had no idea that this was a limiting belief until I heard two people talking about it on a presentation. And it was like, wow, I say this a lot. And you think it might, you think, oh, it's just a statement, but the fact of the matter is, if you're saying that all the time, then your unconscious and your subconscious are internalizing it. And it's becoming real for you. And that means then that you'll never find the time to do the things you want to do. You're always going to be stuck. And when I say that, you could be stuck for years and years because you keep saying, I don't have time. I don't have time. And so until you accept time for the social construct that it is, you're always going to have issues with it. And so there's two things that you can do to kind of address I don't have time. You can actually sit down and do a spreadsheet of all the things that you do throughout a day and the time it takes you to do each one of them, and then analyze what you're spending your time doing. And then you can really see what maybe you're wasting time on versus what you should be spending more time on versus what you don't need to do at all. And sometimes you don't have time because you're procrastinating doing the important stuff. Or the other thing that you can do is you can flip that and you can say, it'll get done when it's supposed to get done. So if you don't say I don't have time, instead of saying I don't have time, say, well, it'll get done when it's supposed to get done. So I have learned to stop saying that about my business. Instead of saying I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that, to make myself successful, I've just started saying, you know what, it's going to get done when it's supposed to get done. And it has made all the difference in the world for me in terms of my business. Another example is anytime you say I can't. Well, your subconscious does not hear negatives. It only hears that, no, that's not what I wanted to say. If you constantly say I can't do something, you're reinforcing the fact that you can't do it. And so then you're telling yourself, I'm never going to be able to do it, and therefore you won't. So this is a very significant limiting belief. Same with I can't because I am not. So I can't do this because I'm not smart enough. I can't do this because I'm not experienced enough. So you're setting yourself up for excuses before you even start as to why you can't do something. and those things work against you and they don't work for you. Probably one of the most fundamentally biggest limiting beliefs out there is I'm not good enough or worthy. I'm unworthy. So just by being on this planet, you are worth it. You wouldn't be on this planet if you weren't worth something. So, and I'm sure, you know, anytime you've had a parent say anything bad about you, you internalize that as, oh, I'm never good enough. I can't do it the way I'm supposed to do it. A coach who says, you know, when coaches yell at teams because they're not performing up to the expectation of the coaches yell at him, tell him, you know, all kinds of nasty things, you know, and sometimes it's just in the heat of the moment, but that can be very, very impactful to athletes and to people that are on a team and trying to work together, and it makes them want to quit. And so anytime that you don't do something, you disappoint someone, the first thing you think of is, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm unworthy. Just, I'm not worthy enough to have success online. I'm not worthy enough to earn lots of money. I'm not worthy enough for people to want to pay for my services. So all kinds of things like that.
That actually reminds me of workplaces, because, you know, when they talk to their teams, they always tell them what's not going right. But most of the people actually don't tell their teams what they actually do well and what's going good, you know, to make them feel good about themselves. It's just like, are you not doing this? This is not going well, and you should be doing this by now. So it's like, oh, well, I don't know if that's really the right way to manage a team and motivate people.
Right, exactly. And it's so important as a leader to encourage your team, encourage those that you're, you know, that are under you, that look up to you. And if you're constantly telling them how crappy they are or what a crappy job they're doing, they're never going to excel. We all need encouragement. We all need to feel needed and wanted and appreciated. And I think that's part of why there's so many horrible workplaces out there, because so many supervisors or managers, yeah, they know how to manage well, but they don't know how to lead. And as a result of that, they have factions and mutinies and unhappiness and unfulfillment and all of that. So, and to go along with that is, I'm not as good as they are. So when you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to someone else and thinking, well, I'm not where Susie's at, she's way ahead of me, that's a limiting belief. And you're holding yourself back because you're thinking that you aren't as good at doing whatever as Susie is. Well, you need, you know, are you taking into account that Susie's been doing it for 10 plus years and you've only been doing it for 6 months? You miss out on a lot of opportunities when you say things like that to yourself. Then the next one is, I will be judged.
Can I interject something really quickly though? I just wanted to get sort of a tabulation. How many people have had somebody that's been a boss to them and you feel good about yourself, but they keep putting you down, and the more they put you down, the more mistakes you make? Like, you can possibly be the best employee, but all of a sudden you're making mistakes where you never would make mistakes because they're on you like that.
You don't, excuse me, don't give them that much power. That's how you win that.
That's kind of a tough one.
It's easier
I
said
used
than
to be like this, but not
Right.
anymore. It would affect me really badly, but not anymore.
Yeah, I've been there, and no matter what, and I'm telling you, when I really had to sit down and take back the power, because it was getting crazy that I'm actually every week I'm finishing a bottle of wine, and the person I'm dealing with is just like number 45 and a narcissist, and I refuse refuse to belittle myself or refuse to have her have that much power over me. So the more I continue to ignore her, the more I continue to do what I needed to do. She knew whatever she said went over the head. As long as I know what I did within the best of my ability, she can critique it all she wants to. I always had the president of the board on my side. For several different presidents, I always had them on my side. But for whatever reason, I don't know. But when she realized I overcame and she could sit down and huff and puff and it doesn't faze me anymore, she got the message. She did. I had to keep the positivity because I cannot afford to have that individual to have that much power over me. It's like I'm going to have to go to her if I need to go to the store or something. No. And if I need to go to the store, she's going to tell me no just to be spiteful. No. No. You have to take back that power. Your mindset, you have to take back that power. With your mind, if you allow your mind to literally, not even, I'm going to say that it dissects your brain and you try to digest it, it's hard for you to get it out. I'm sorry. I took back the power.
I applaud your ability to do that, Angela. I think that's sometimes easier said than done for a lot of people, for lots of reasons. If you're being totally micromanaged and you don't have an ally that's around you, above you, whatever, it's really tough to do that. I've been in a situation where I just got picked at and picked at and picked at and picked at, and it was like I started a job and she was great, and then 9 months in, it was like a switch flipped and she just became the wicked witch of the West. And I was like, it was almost like I felt like she had been possessed in the night one night, and she came back to work and she was a totally different person. And I had nobody that I could turn to, and I had to put up with it. And it's really tough when you're micromanaged and you're, you know, there's nobody around that you can get support from. But I do agree with you. If you can take back the power, then you definitely should.
But I just found it interesting though, I just found it interesting though, is I guess my question was, do you find though that you make more mistakes? Do you find yourself, interestingly enough, things that you would never make a mistake on because they're right here, you'll all of a suddenly make
yes, absolutely. And the thing about it, when you notice you're starting to make the mistakes, you're starting to diminish your capabilities. And it's also about intimidation. You know what I mean? I'm like, and intimidation, that's one thing. It does not, it used to get to me as it's totally out of it. That's the one thing I'm not going to let fly with me. But it comes to a point and you have to realize it, is that there's a saying that I always say, misery loves company. And I'm not that company. I'm not. So therefore, I'll tune you out. I do. I'm not going to allow you. I can sit down and have 10 cups of coffee for a day. I don't have a problem. But for me to buy a bottle of wine every day for 5 days out of the week, that's a problem. It's a problem. So I'm like, it's either. No. And honestly, I had a board director come in, and one day she was talking to me and she could not believe it. She left the job because of a certain nurse. She said no matter what, the nurse was it made her life miserable. Here we are 10 years later. This nurse finds where she's at and tries to sue her. This is how people, and it happens. And it all comes down at that point in time where some people are jealous. It's crazy. They dismiss the case, but at the same, 10 years ago, I don't even acknowledge you 10 years ago. I'm on with my life and you're still going to come out for what? It's ridiculous, but you have some people in this world that's miserable. So.
All right. Well, moving on.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
It really, I think it's a process, but if you really start not making other people's behavior, making it mean anything about you. How other people behave doesn't mean anything about you. And no one can make you feel anything. You choose how you want to feel. And I know it's not easy when you first start doing it, but over time, I actually went to the point where I feel sorry for people because, they have just such a miserable life. And I just like, you know, I just feel sorry for that person that they have to be this miserable, but it has nothing to do with me.
That's a good point, Jenny. Very good point. I like that.
And that is a perfect segue into the next one, which is I will be judged. So people don't do things because of fear of what other people are going to think or about them or say to them. And I have a friend online, and her mantra is, what other people think about me is none of my business. You know, and half the time, and Jenny's talked in the past about this, you know, and two people across the room are talking, and then they both kind of look at you at different times, and you think, oh, what are they saying about me? Chances are they're probably not even noticing you, and they're talking about something completely different. So don't worry about what other people think. All you need to do is the best that you can do, and let the chips fall where they may, and don't let other people stop you from doing things. And then I have failed. That's another limiting belief. So once you fail, then you're going to keep saying, I can't do it because I failed. Well, I always like to say that Thomas Edison found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. He says that. He says, yeah, I found 10,000 ways it didn't work, but I only needed to find one way that did. So it doesn't matter whether you fail, quote unquote, fail or not, because you're going to learn from the times that you don't have success, and those times are going to help you to get to success. So you need to just wipe that one out. Don't, you know, so what? You failed. Get up and try again. Fail to what is that? Fail to success? Is that what they say? Fail forward, and eventually you will be successful. So, and then the last one is I just kind of I put down money because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, because we could do a whole boot camp on limiting beliefs around money. So, but there's a lot of things that you think about money that are limiting beliefs that are holding you back from getting it in life. And so I just wanted to throw it out there as something that you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Evaluate and research into for yourself. And so those are just a very short list, and you know, we spent quite a bit of time on it, but sometimes it helps to jumpstart you figuring out what your limiting beliefs are when you can see concrete examples in front of you. And so now Jenny is going to talk to us about how to overcome limiting beliefs.
So yeah, this is a technique from Byron Katie, and it's called the work. So that process really helped me in overcoming limiting beliefs. And it's called the work because it is a process. It is something you have to come back to every time a limiting belief pops up. And there will be, the deeper you go on your personal development journey, there will be beliefs coming up that you actually thought you overcame, or you actually didn't know that you even had this limiting belief. And yeah, so it's a two-step process. So you can go to the other slide, Wendy. Thanks. So the first thing is, like we talked about, you choose a limiting belief that you have uncovered. So you're sure that this is something that it's holding you back in any way. And the second step is you answer the 4 questions. And like I said before with Lorianne, just ask yourself, is this belief actually true? For example, like limiting belief is, I'm going to be judged when I do a Facebook Live. People are going to come on and judge me or leave bad comments about me, and just, I will be judged. So really ask yourself, is this belief true? And then ask yourself again, can I absolutely know that it is 100% true? Do I have all the evidence? Did I collect all the evidence that I can say, this is what's going to happen? So do you know for sure that when you hop on a Facebook Live that people will come on and judge you? No, you don't. You don't know. You can't read people's minds. So how will you predict that this will actually happen? You can't. And then the third question is, how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? What happens in your mind? What happens in your body? Do you have like a physical reaction? And who would you be without that thought? Which identity would you have? Would you be more confident? Would you be calm when you do your Facebook Live? Would you not be afraid? Would you just be, you know, courageous and do it? And these 4 questions have really helped me to come out of a limiting belief and really overcome it. So yeah, that's a really, really good process to do if you have a limiting belief coming up. And I actually want to share another technique. So this is like an NLP technique we're going to do together. And it's called a quantum scramble. It only takes like 2 minutes and it's really effective. So everyone, I just want you to pick one limiting belief you can think of. And just let me know when everyone has got a limiting belief. You got it? When you got it? Lorianne got it? Angela? And Charles?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm between school. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Charles and Ellen, have you got one?
Yes.
What about Doc?
Doc's praying for us.
Okay, cool. All right, then let's just go for it. Hang on just 30 seconds. I just have to fix Bella, so she's going to be quiet for 2 minutes.
So this will be the last thing of our presentation today, this little exercise that we're going to do with Jenny. And so while she's getting ready, I'll just say that next week we're going to have our special guests, Aaron and Veronica, and I believe they have a podcast called The Spirit Within.
Yes.
If I'm incorrect, Rob, please feel free to correct me. And then June 3rd, we're going to start a new series on, I just kind of came up with this, hopefully it's accurate, the important aspects of branding. And so on June 3rd, we're going to do an overview of all the things that we'll talk about in the following weeks. So whenever you're ready, Jenny, I was just kind of filling time waiting for you.
I want you to just give it a number, like from 0 to 10. How much of a problem is that for you? Like 10 is a really big problem and 0 is like no problem at all.
0 for me.
All right. Okay.
So
I'm just going to ask you a few questions. You just have to consider it. You don't have to give me any answers. So what's the problem? Oh, so you already decided. Okay. Where were you when you were deciding that? Good. And just before that, where were you? As you think about your present situation in life, notice how many more options you have now. Think of the old problem and notice how you feel different about it now. As you think about the next time you may have made a decision that limits you, knowing what you know now, notice how much better you feel not doing it anymore. So how's that old problem? What's different? What's changed? Just write down the number of how much of a problem is it now? Is it from 0 to 10? Where is it now?
Zero.
And when you think of a time in the future where that old problem would come up, is it still there or has it gone? Someone want to share?
Well, mine is still there a bit.
But on the scale from, like, where were you before? On the scale from 0 to 10?
Probably a 6.
Mm-hmm. And where is it now?
3.
That's awesome. Great. Cool. Robert looks confused.
I'm about the same. I'm about the same. I haven't been able to get it down to 0 completely.
No, that's all right. You don't have to get it down to 0, but you will definitely feel like an improvement.
But here's the interesting thing. The more I focus on it, I realize that not getting it to a 0 is one of my limiting beliefs. So that's, just something I can work on, but I feel the improvement, and absolutely I visualize the improvement without a doubt.
I agree with Robert.
I know not everyone's going to share, but I will share. Mine was the time thing that Wendy had brought up earlier. That was one of my big things, because you take on a lot. And so when you take on a lot and you become overwhelmed, your assumption is always, I'm just too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. When in reality, when I really do lay every single thing out, and I even do this on a daily basis, I just don't do it entirely as much as I should. I start to realize that a lot of energy, a lot of where focus goes, energy flows. So a lot of times I'm focused on the things that actually are not going to improve my life or others, which is really my priority in life, right?
Yep.
And so you get distracted really by all these other things in life that are, quite honestly, they're not improving my life or the others around me.
And me, it was failure. Everything that I tried, I never seemed to actually, I've tried a lot of things, and then that F word comes in all the time. I was in the clothing business, designed my own clothes, that went belly up. I was in the automotive industry, that went belly up. And then you get to the point where you're almost thinking, should I keep trying? But what I failed to do was look at all the times that I actually succeeded. I was focusing more on where I failed. I became the president of the Oakville Chamber of Commerce, even if they didn't want me to, because I was darn well going to make it, and I succeeded. So I have to start focusing on, you did this, and I'm hoping that I get my master's in certification handwriting, and I'll be the first one in Canada. And it's not all about achievements, but when you actually complete something, I moved so many times that there were so many limitations to completion of something I wanted to do as a child. And that limiting belief has carried on with me. And I have to get over the fact that, you don't have to move every 5 years. you don't have to do something new every 5 years. Doesn't matter if you tried and it didn't work out. You can keep going.
Yeah.
So that's my thing.
Like,
and my sister even said that moving around a lot is an issue for children as they grow as to adults. It is. And I do believe that. But we have to get over it as adults.
Yeah. Like, focus. You nailed it, though. In that one statement, you nailed it. Focus on all the positive, amazing things you've done, and not the F word, right?
Exactly.
Because now all those experiences are really just there so that you don't repeat them over and over and over again, right? They're just, they're basically lessons learned. So,
And quickly to that too, there was something, and I know that we quote people here, but Anderson Gall said it very well in the Escape book that he has. It's, if you blame everyone else on where you failed, so to speak, you're never going to learn and you're never going to move forward. You've got to find what was your responsibility in a business failing or a relationship failing or whatever. If you don't take responsibility for it, you will never grow, because the finger pointing will never get you anywhere. You have to point it towards you as well. It's not all you, but you have to say, I could have said, oh, the economy failed it. Well, no, I also tried to grow the business too quickly when the economy was not doing well.
Yeah.
Duh.
Well,
right?
Absolutely. Let's take and I hate bringing it into this element, but it's the season. So let's talk about COVID, just briefly. We won't get deep, but this experience, yes, it's tragic across the board. I was impacted. I know all of you were impacted in potentially some way or another. It's touched everyone in some form, even if it's nothing more than just a mental thing that's actually happened. So, but I'll state this. We can focus on all those negatives and we can continuously say to ourselves, well, because of COVID, I'm now broke, or I'm living, paycheck to paycheck, or I can't afford my rent or house payment this month. When that's a fact, you can still have that feeling. You should have that feeling, but you should use that feeling as motivation to take responsibility and realize, why am I living paycheck to paycheck? Why could I not afford rent for 1 or 2 months during this situation? Finding the solution to that is going to allow you to push forward, right? And to make sure it never happens again. I hope,
Yes.
I wish this for every one of you out there, that instead of focusing on the negative, like you stated, figure out, okay, this is the pain that I experienced during COVID. So for the next year, I'm going to create that savings account. I'm going to put a month's rent or 2 months rent, away. I'm going to put enough money away that I can buy groceries and not have to go to the store for a month. I mean, some of those things may be far-fetched, but there's still things that we should learn, right? We should learn from this experience.
Just a little added thought regarding probably a continuation of Robert's idea there about limiting beliefs regarding, like, for instance, the COVID thing that's going on. It's actually opened up a lot of opportunities for a lot of people as far as having extra time. I had a number of things that I'd set aside as far as projects that I wanted to do when I got the time, and I knew I could have the time. I'm actually, at one time I had that limiting belief that there wasn't enough time, but I knew that I would have the time, and I hired helpers whenever I don't have enough time for everything. But because of this time in this season that we're in, I just knew exactly what to do. I'd already had it all lined up what I was going to do. And so lemons can be turned into lemonade for every circumstance. We have the opportunities to look at things that could potentially go 2 different directions. And if we plan those things out in advance, we just say, okay, this is what we do if plan A happens. This is what we do if plan B happens. And if there's a failure in one of them, we know which direction we can go, and we know how we can still accomplish whatever it is we're doing and actually make progress with things one way or the other.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yes.
Yes. And that's always one thing that sorry?
I was going to say, we know that, don't we, Charles?
Yeah.
It was through this period that we actually both actually graduate together if all things go well. But it was during this period that we actually managed to complete the homework and the test for 501, because Charles is with me on that one as well. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
We had the time off for that, so we both finished our mastery. And yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, do that when we graduate. If Doc will actually pass us.
Thank you, Will.
Okay. Well, to be respectful of time, we probably should try and wrap up here. Rob, did you want to give us a little bit more information on Aaron and Veronica?
Yeah, really, in a nutshell, it's really a perfect way to close out the stuff we've been talking about over the last few weeks. Both Aaron and Veronica are very skilled in helping people overcome certain obstacles in their life, from both a mental and even a spiritual state. And so they do have their own podcast or vidcast, if you want to be politically correct. They do the majority of it on video. And they've had all kinds of guests, including, Wishman, and Les Brown and all these people. For those that don't know who Wishman is, somebody that I'm actually trying to get lined up for some segments we're doing in the future. But he's, the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation. And so they've just had a lot of people on there, and their subject really aligns with everything that we're trying to do here. Is in order to be successful in anything that you're trying to accomplish in life, you need to address that there's a problem, as we stated here earlier, and really focus on that problem, and then actually have the tools and the experience and the help to overcome, whatever those issues may be. So Veronica and Aaron should be able to shed some awesome light on some of these things. We will, by the way, be able to do a Q&A with them. The majority of the call will be Q&A. So start thinking about, questions that you would just want to ask somebody. Maybe it's even just your own personal limiting beliefs or your own experiences that you'd like to share. And so I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent.
Is there, let's see, is there anything that, Lorianne had a couple things planned in past meetings of ours. Is there anything that you guys need us to maybe add to this group a little bit? I know we have our handwriting analysis thing that we do. I need to get with you, Robert, sometime on
Actually,
this too, because I've got I don't have your phone number yet, but I've got your email. I think.
okay.
Or maybe
Actually, I'll just give it right now. You have something to write with? I'll give it. It's no.
I got my phone here.
All right. 864
864
680 3952.
680 39. Oh, here we are. Okay, I do have your number. Okay.
All right, excellent.
All righty. Okay, I'll call that. I had you under something different. So,
Uh-oh.
Okay. Zoom class. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Doc has me under different things too. I don't know.
yeah.
No, that's great. Thanks,
What is
Charles.
it,
And
Wally?
actually, Charles, I'm glad you asked that question, because whether we can or cannot answer that like right on the spot, this is important for us to all contribute and figure out, what are some other things that we can do. We've got a talented group of individuals. We've got talent, so much talent within the community. So there's absolutely room to add more content, to add more input and help. I mean, if there's a topic that's pressed on your heart that you'd like to get out, that you think is going to better people in their own personal self, branding themselves, and then actually being able to brand whatever it is that they're doing in life, their own business, etc. That would be helpful. So I'm actually glad you prompted that, and we'll talk more about that.
All right. Excellent.
Good question. All right, and thank you. Nice seeing you again, Angela. Join us on the next week.
Yes, thanks
I
for
will.
coming.
All right.
Thanks
for
Thanks
coming,
for your input.
everyone,
It's actually
and-
very insightful. Thank you.
You
Invite-
guys have a fabulous weekend.
All right.
Thanks, you
You
too.
too.
Everyone else.
Invite people you know to come next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, we're gonna have some good content. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.